going to spend a little time with the spanning tree protocol timers now, and a quick word of real-world advice, dad lecture, whatever you want to call it. You got to know these timers for the exam. You got to know how to change them, where to change them, where not to change them, what they do, that kind of thing, of course. But in the real world, you want to be really careful about adjusting these timers because they are important defaults. Cisco came up with these particular default values for a reason. And I'm going to give you a quick word later about how to dynamically adjust STP timers. But again, it's not something you're going to do a lot of as far as fine-tuning these timers. You may occasionally use port fast to skip a few of them, but we'll hit that in the next section. Now, these timers, they're so important that we're going to see them twice when you run show spanning VLAN. And actually, there's more than that information you'll see twice. But here on the non-root, I'm running show spanning VLAN 1. And here under root ID, I've got hello 2 seconds, max age 20 seconds, forward delay 15 seconds. And then under bridge ID, I've got hello time 2 seconds, max age 20 seconds, forward delay 15 seconds. So they're the same right now, so I might not be too worried about it. It's like, okay, whichever set we're using, they're the same. But what if they weren't the same? Then you would really need to know which set is actually being used. We know the information in the root ID fields, that's information about the root switch. And in the bridge ID fields, that's information about the local switch. So we better know which takes precedence over the other. I think we're going to see that pretty shortly in a lab. But right now, let's take a look at what those timers are. The hello timer defines how often the root bridge is going to originate config BPDUs. And the default setting there is 2 seconds. The forward delay is the length of the listening and learning stages, 15 seconds each by default. And the max age or maximum age is how long a switch will retain its superior BPDU's contents before discarding it. Because after 20 seconds or so, the switch just says, okay, I haven't heard anything lately, and I'm going to go back into another state and come out of forwarding mode. The default setting there is 20 seconds. So those are important values to know, and we know now why we see each one listed twice. But the most important set really is on the root, because those are the timers that are actually getting used. And if you go to a non-root and you change the STP timers, well, we'll see if the switch tells us anything like, hey, you're not on the root, this isn't going to take effect. Now, you use the spanning VLAN command to change these timers. And for the change to take effect throughout the VLAN, you always want to use these commands on your primary and secondary root bridges. And note that you can't set these timers to just any value you like. Cisco's not going to let you do that. You can't disable any of these. So let's just see what each one of those ranges are. And I'm going to do this on switch 2. And we will go to spanning VLAN. And we'll just do 1. And there's our forward time, hello time, and max age. Let me show you a little something. It's a little off the beaten path here. You can let the switches dynamically adjust the STP timers if they think it's necessary. And you don't do that with any of these forward time, hello time, max age commands because those are for static configuration. Frankly, that's usually what you're going to use if you're fine-tuning it. But what you can do is with the root command, and we're going to work with these root commands, root primary and root secondary, I believe in the very next video. But I wanted to show you this right now. This diameter option, this actually lets you let the switches decide what the timers are going to be, because then you tell it, okay, here's my diameter of my switching network. Here's the maximum number of bridges, switches, between any two end nodes, and the range is 2 to 7. I wouldn't worry about memorizing the range. Couldn't hurt while we're here. But this is how to dynamically adjust your STP timers. Of course, if you choose to do that, I would check and see what they came up with. But let's stick with static configuration for right now. Let's start with forward time. Forward time, 4 to 30 seconds. And we know the default for that is 15 seconds for each stage. So we could set that to 12. And there we go. So then spanning VLAN 1, we'll do the hello time next. And notice this is 1 through 10 seconds, so you can't exactly set it, to a minute and a half or anything like that. Just for fun, I'll change it to 4. And we've got forward time, we've got hello time, then we've got max age, and let's see what our range there is, 6 to 40 seconds. So notice that you can't set any of these to 0. You can't disable any of your STP timers. So we'll just move that up to 25, and that's perfectly fine. Now, we configured all of those on the non-root, and we didn't get any messages saying, hey Chris, you're not on the root. So let's see what happens now when I run show spanning VLAN 1. The changes are only local. Note that you see them under bridge ID, but not under root ID. The root ID is staying at the defaults. Those are the timers that are actually being used right now. And the key here is the only way that the timers on this switch now will ever be used, 4, 25, and 12, is if this device actually becomes the root. So we definitely want to go over to our other switch and change our timers here. Whoops. Let me do that, and we could do a hello time of 3. We could do a forward time of 25. And then we could just do a max age of 25 too. Not recommended values for your production network, certainly, just kind of pulling them out of the air so I could show you how to do those. And then when we run show spanning VLAN 1, you'll notice the changes here, of course, are there for the root and the bridge because we're on the root. And then we're going to hop over, hopefully. There we go. And check it out. And there we go. We've got 3 seconds. Our changes were carried over. We've gotten a BPDU since then. It says, hey, here are the new values that we're using. And that's really it. That's all there is to actually changing these values. Again, I would recommend you be very careful about doing so in a production network, but it's definitely important stuff to know for the exam. So I believe that covers everything. You're always going to verify it with show spanning VLAN. We went to the non-root switch, checked it out. The new timers had actually been advertised. Always remember the settings in use are the ones under the root ID. So that really takes care of our STP timers, how to change them, where to change them, where not to change them, and even a little extra info about the dynamic changing. And I will see you on the very next video.